Teresa, what's going on? Welcome to the Dad Edge.
Hey, thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm so excited.
Well, thanks for coming on. This is a big topic. It's a very big topic. The respected man. First of all, how did you come up with that name, the respected man?
Do you really want to know the truth?
Yeah.
So I live in Arizona and I have this special place in Fountain Hills on top of a mountain that I go when I need to really stay connected to God and I need some answers. And so I had started on TikTok creating these videos and I was about 2 weeks in and I was getting thousands and thousands of followers. And I thought, man, I should really name this and start an Instagram account. And so I drove to my spot in Fountain Hills and I just sat in silence and I just prayed. Really, I said, God, give me a name for this because men are hurting in the world today and I feel called to help them, but I'm not sure what the name is. And it literally came to me, goes The Respected Man. And it's crazy as it is, it was available. I bought therespectedman.com, the Respected Man podcast. How crazy is that? And I got brand consistency out over all platforms. That name was available. And I thought, that's the name.
I am shocked.
Talk up with it.
I am seriously shocked that was available. I mean, that I agree. That's a sign from God, that brand was meant to be the one that you're running and you're doing a great job of it. I've seen you on, you and I connected on Instagram. I started watching some of the things you're doing on TikTok. I got to admit on Instagram, I was a little confused at first. I was like, why doesn't she talk? She just point to the captions, but the captions were just so intriguing. And I'm like, this is fascinating. And then on TikTok, obviously you talk. And then you want
me to tell you why I don't talk?
Yes. Let's hear it.
Because my brand helps women understand men better. And a lot of times just need to be heard and understood. We don't even need to open our mouths to make a man feel heard and understood.
Very true. Well,
I do talk a lot, but in my videos, that's kind of the theme.
Do you get a lot of hate from women?
I used to on TikTok, but as you probably know, TikTok has a lot of haters. I think they pay people just to hate on people's TikToks, but it's fine. The haters make things grow. But actually, no, I don't. I don't have a lot of hate. It's very, very rare. As a matter of fact, I have a lot of women that come to me, kind of on their knees saying, hey, I feel that I've been disrespecting my husband for years and years. And he's been telling me the exact same thing that you say in your business, in your brand, in your messaging, but I've never listened. But for some reason, when you say it, it resonates with me. I've missed this in my marriage and I want to learn how to do it. Teach me how.
Do you think that's because you're also a woman? And if the woman hears it from her man, it probably doesn't, it falls into ears. No kidding around. If my husband says these things, I don't really take a whole lot of credibility with it. But then I see Teresa talking about it and I'm like, oh, maybe, I don't know.
Well, here's the deal. So my brand is that I help women understand why men feel most loved through sex and respect, right? Yeah. So if a man comes to you and says, I want you to respect me, you don't respect me, and let's have more sex, that instantly shuts a woman down. No, you have to earn respect and I don't want to have sex. So how do we meet in the middle? So it does come across a little bit, rash when your husband's telling you that or your significant other. So when it comes from another woman and I break it down from my perspective where how do we look at this as a benefit to ourselves and then reflect that back to, our husbands or the men in our lives. So I break it down a little bit differently. Now, some of my things are a little edgy and in your face, but sometimes girls just need to be told like it is. And so, even coming from me, if I call women out, they're more receptive to it than if their husband does, for sure.
That makes sense. I want to start with your childhood because, you've experienced what it is that you're talking about, even through a daughter's eyes. So I want you to talk to us about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I grew up with an alcoholic father and I was the youngest of 3 children. And I was daddy's girl. My daddy absolutely loved me. But I saw my dad, numb his pain at the bottom of a whiskey bottle every single day. My dad had black velvet was what he drank, gallons. He would order cases of gallons of black velvet. And he would literally just drink it all day long, warm, just twist the cap off all day long. And it was normal to me because that's what I saw, right? My dad was thirsty. It looked like Kool-Aid to me. I didn't really understand. But, as I started getting older and my parents, they were fighting, my mom was, always passive aggressive and just, cut my dad down all the time behind his back. And I would watch my dad, literally, he drank himself to death. My dad died at 57 years old and I was 24. But it was just super sad. And I remember I loved my dad, and in my eyes, he could do no wrong. And so it was odd to see my mom hate on my dad. And I can even remember being a little girl saying, when I get a husband and if he drinks, I'm not ever going to be mad at him for drinking. Like trying to cover up for my dad, like trying to side with my dad, and I could never understand why my mom was so mean, or why my dad could never solve his deepest hurts. And he said a lot of things to me because I was the youngest and I was really little. It has to be because I don't really remember, him saying these things to my older brother and sister, which he didn't. But when he was intoxicated, he would say things to me like, come sit in my lap. And I'd go, over sit on his lap, and he'd be like, sweetie, when I die, don't cry. Just throw a rose on my grave and walk away. I'll be in a better place. And he'd have tears running down his face. And I, as a little girl, was like, Daddy, you're not going to die. Like, you're not going to die. And I blew it off. And that was said to me over and over, right? I'll be in a better place. And I remember the day my dad died, he was on life support. And at the end of his life, he had no friends there. He had me, my brother, my sister. He was on life support for 13 days. And we literally had to pick the day that we basically killed our dad. And I remember the day we argued. I mean, here's your 3 kids. We're adults, all in our 20s, arguing about the day we're going to take dad off life support because we knew that would be his last breath. And I remember when my dad died, I laid my head on his chest and I just said, tears streaming down my face, like, Daddy, you're in a better place. And I knew it. But as I got older, I realized that he had so much hidden pain from childhood trauma. He was adopted at birth into a family who in the 1940s adopted him, and they were in their 40s. So they were older parents. They had never had kids before. And they physically beat my dad. They were extremely mean to my dad. And then my dad's kind of life spiraled out of that, after that. And so just kind of going through he was adopted and he never met his biological family. And he always told me he never wanted to meet them because he was so hardened by that and so hurt the fact that they would give him away. And all he ever wanted was a huge family. So, he deeply wanted to be loved by a huge family. And he said, I never want to know my biological family, but you have my, blessing. If you want to meet them, you can meet them. And I don't know if you follow my story much, but last November, I connected with his family on Ancestry. And I flew out to Wisconsin, and I met my dad's biological family. My dad's mom is one of 13 kids, and my dad was one of 7. So I'm related to the whole state of Wisconsin. So if you're from Wisconsin, we are probably cousins. But my dad grew up as an only child, and that's what he wanted, was a huge family. So I, when I flew out, I went by myself. I remember back in November, and I have a locket. It's a heart-shaped locket with my dad's ashes in it. And so I brought him with me. So that was a special for me for sure, but it brought a lot of closure to my life. And I'm grateful that I get to do this because so many men are suffering. And unfortunately, as women, as the wives, the women in our lives, we can see this. We're the ones that are really intuitive, and we can see this happening. But I feel like we can also open up, we can kind of crack open that of those men and dive deeper into their pain, help them see, the light, see the hope, be able to get help or resources where, if you're an alcoholic, let me tell you this, they say you can never help an alcoholic. If you're the wife of an alcoholic, it says, well, they have to want to get help on their own. They don't want to get help on their own. It's rare until they're on deathbed that they say, okay, I need to get help. But still, they truly probably don't understand that they need to get help. So you don't have to push them to get help, but definitely having some conversations that open up, some things and give them different opportunities, or maybe see things from different perspectives, because you can't just push them to the side. People need help, they need support. So I just feel so blessed to be able to, in the respected man, to be able to be helping millions of people understand truly what's at the heart of a man. And I believe it's love.
Wow. How old were you when you were sitting on his lap?
Oh, little.
Like how little? Like how old were you, do you think?
Probably the first time I remember was like 4. I have a really, really vivid memory of when I was like 2 and 3 years old, and I can remember conversations.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna save a question for you here at the end based on what you just said. Okay. Mm-hmm. Because I think I'm not gonna spoil it, but I think it would be something. I think it'd be a really cool reflection for you and the audience, and just for guys out there who are just like your dad, right? So we'll shelve that one for a second. For what are some things that you distinctly remember your mom doing that your dad effectively felt like this all the time? Like, what were some of the things that she said to him? Some of the things that maybe she even did?
Well, let's lighten the situation for 1 second. So my dad was drunk every night, and he would always pass out in his lazy boy recliner. I remember this. I was about 4 years old, and my mom hated it. And she'd be like, he always starts. And then when you're drunk and you pass on the recliner, you can't move somebody. And that was back in the early 80s. We all watched TV at night. You know, we had that TV that sat on the shag rug carpet, like on the floor, and like, and then there was dad snoring. And so my mom was so sick of it one night, and she was like vacuuming the house, and she took the, it scared me to death. I remember she took the end of the vacuum off, took the hose and sucked it to his nose to wake him up. He was like,
oh
like,
my God. Are you kidding me?
Oh my gosh. Yes, it was traumatic. There was a lot of like crazy things that happened, lots of fighting, especially as I grew up, you know, like, I remember my mom loved my dad, but she was always leaving him because he wouldn't change. And so I was the baby. So she would take me and put me in different schools all the time. Like we would leave, and then my dad would promise to change, and then we would come back. And then it was the same, you know, type of pattern. But honestly, my mom was really, really passive aggressive. She was condescending. She was negative. You know, your dad's just drunk. Your dad, da, da, da. And so, and as a little girl, like I loved my dad. I didn't know he was doing anything wrong because I didn't really know that people had normal lives outside of our lives. That was my normal. And so it always hurt my feelings to hear my mom, you know, say things to my dad that was passive aggressive, or you can't do anything right, or you never do anything for the family, or like, of course you're drunk again, or, you know, those types of things.
Man. Well, so let me ask you this. I mean, you were daddy's girls. I'm going to kind of roll the dice on a little bit of a risky question here for you, but I think it just might be appropriate. So you and I, let me preface this question. I'm going to ask you the question first. I'm going to tell you a story to let you kind of gel on it for a second. So my question is, as you look back on your childhood and I think the question theme is really around the chicken or the egg. Do you think your dad drank because how he was treated, or he drank and then he was treated badly because your mom had resentment towards him? And so I want you to gel on that for a second. And do you think that your mom had any justification for how she treated him if she was resentful? So that's kind of the question. But let me just share this quick story while you gel on that. My mom married a man when I was 4. So but you know my story because I was on your podcast, but I didn't know my biological father. They were married for a couple of years, got divorced when I was like 9 months old. And then there was no dad in my life until 4. My mom married a guy. He adopted me. My biological father signed over parental rights. They were married for 6 years. I too had a very, very similar experience as you did, where I watched my dad be completely and totally emasculated, ripped apart. Now, and to be quite honest, and my dad drank a lot, and so did my mom. And especially when they drank, it got really, really dark. You know, a lot of bad things happened. But to be honest, looking back on it, I don't know if it was the chicken or the egg. I don't know because I watched literally for those 6 years, every year, my dad, because he was my dad, that he adopted me. That's who I knew as dad. I just watched him spiral out into this black hole of absolute depression, more and more alcohol, more and more fighting. I still remember being 9 years old. They were probably 6 to 9 months from him leaving the house. He had lost his job, and it was the most depressive state I'd ever seen him. He actually lived in the basement of our floor, which we had this cold tile floor, and he didn't have a job. and he was sleeping. He would sleep all day long in his trench coat and the patio furniture cushions. And I would go down there at 9 years old and check on him like 2, 3, 4 times a day. And I would just put my hands on him. I'm like, is this guy still breathing? But I don't remember, like, did he drink because of the way my mom treated him, or did my mom treat him, this way because she was so pissed that he drank all the time? Like, I don't know. But for you, what do you think?
I think it was both. I think my dad was drinking before he met my mom. And then, the drinking, because my mom did drink, but my mom was never an alcoholic. Like, my mom will still once in a while have a Coors Light at night. It's not a big deal. I really remember my mom being drunk, but they would go out to the bars when I was little and leave me home alone. And I just think my dad enjoyed drinking, but I do think as his life started to, fall apart and spiral out of control, the drinking got worse. And it was like, well, kind of one of those, I think I know a lot of guys do this, because men, it's a blessing from God. They have fragile glass egos. And so once a woman starts to degrade a man, he's like, well, screw it. Like, I can't do anything right anyway. So might as well just sit at the bar next hour and drink, I mean, I grew up in a bar. Like, I remember my dad would literally leave me in his pickup truck and run in and have a few drinks and come back out and be like, hey, how's it going? I was like 3 years old. He left me in his truck, and I had really big buck teeth. My front teeth were huge. And he had a Chevy pickup truck, and I leaned forward, and I remember it felt really good to stick my front teeth through the dash, like the leather and the vinyl leather. And it's 1970 something. And he came out and he had like tooth holes, looked like a rabbit, like tooth holes all on his dash. And I'm like, that's what you get for leaving me in the truck. You didn't have phones back then. I don't even know what I did. Played with the radio or something. No, it's crazy. But that was my norm, right? That was my norm. So yeah, lots of fighting in my house. I remember my 10th birthday. I had friends over. We were hanging out in the basement. My parents got in a fight upstairs, and my mom was throwing my dad's clothes in the fireplace. Like, it was great. It was so fun. Like, I hated it growing up, but I can look back now and I'm really, thankful. And I thank my mom. I wrote letters to my dad, like thanking him for not being an amazing dad. But he honestly, I feel like he did the best job he knew how to do. And he didn't have a good upbringing. He tried to attempted, but it taught me, it taught me to be the woman I am today. And that I never wanted that for my children, and to always strive to be better. And so I feel like I have the opportunity to carry on my dad's legacy and be the best version of myself, because, that's what he wanted, but he just couldn't win, couldn't get ahead.
Got it. Wow. Okay. You mentioned in here or you mentioned just in this last segment that was the person you never wanted to be. Yet through us chatting, that was the person you kind of started to become. Is that correct?
So not the bad side. So it's crazy because like my dad always wanted to be a better version of himself, but being an alcoholic, I feel like he could never get that. He could never have that family.
Right.
He could never have that, the love he always wanted. So I got to be the opposite of what he was, but wanted to be.
Got it.
Right.
I'm sorry. I didn't phrase the question properly. What I really meant to say was,
I closet drink and throw my kids' clothes in the fire.
Yeah. No, what I really meant to say was, as regards to the way your mom treated him, like you saw that there's probably a part of you. It's like, there's probably a part of you that growing up, you're like, wow, like that really kind of sucks to see that. Like, I don't really want to be that. But there was a part of you that kind of became that, like where you treated men in your life, you said, not in the way that you're in alignment with now. Yeah.
Yes. I've coined the term the butthole wife.
Yes. That one. Yeah.
I tried that with Zach. As a matter of fact, he's been on my podcast several times, but yes, the avoidant wife, the passive aggressive, like, don't really say what you want, but like just poke jabs to kind of encouragement, which that really doesn't work. Yeah, no, not at all. That's terrible. Men hate that. So don't try that. Doesn't work. I tried it.
Let's explore that a little bit. I want to get deeper than that. Like you were doing these behaviors, right? Maybe withholding, you mentioned before we hit record, withholding sex, even, wearing things that were unattractive. So you didn't have to necessarily husband repellent. You would nag, maybe emasculate a little bit. those are the things that were happening from a behavior standpoint, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what was going on inside your mind that these behaviors came out like, because I'm one thing that we always say is that how people are operating in their life, it makes total sense to them. And I've done good things in my life. I've done bad things in my life. And what I can tell you is even in seasons of doing bad things that I know are bad, they're like, well, it's justified or it makes sense to me right now. And then you look back on it, you're like, oh, maybe not so much. But if you look back on that time, those times where you were doing those things, what was the thought process? What made it maybe even justifiable? What made it even feel like, you know what? Yeah, this is the way things go.
I don't know that it ever felt justifiable. I didn't know any different. Let's be honest. So what started to change my perspective was, I grew up in a home with my alcoholic father who was atheist. And then my mom was Christian, but didn't go to church. And then I had an older sister and her dad is still a pastor and he's like 80. I think he's like 80 years old. My oldest sister has a different dad. And then my best friend, her family was strong Christians and went to church. So I was baptized when I was 11 years old in a church. I went to church every weekend with my friend's house because I actually enjoyed, being with her more than I did at home. So I spent a lot of time in church, kind of drifted away through high school. Then I got married to my first husband. I like to say that lasted for a year. We were kids. It lasted for a year. We were kids having kids. We had a baby. We got married. He was my high school sweetheart. I always say that should fall off your record like a DUI does, but marriages don't. They stay with you forever. So I get to carry that one with me. But my first real marriage was with Zach, and we were together for 7 years. We had 2 children together. Our son had the brain surgery, and we went to church. He was a strong Christian, and his family was strong Christians, and we went every weekend together. And so his family really started to open my eyes to like how a woman should treat a man. And his stepmom and dad, we were really, really close to. And I just started watching how she would treat her husband and how his, sisters were treating their husbands. And I thought, man, I didn't grow up learning that at all. Like I grew up with passive aggressive, condescending, negative mom, right? And bless her heart, she's amazing. I love her today. She's married, but she knows I say all these things about her. But that was back then, right? But like I grew up in a church, so I started seeing how, like, in reading the Bible and like how God says we should treat men and they need respect, but what does that mean? Right. So then I went to Emerson Eggerich's Love and Respect conference. I mean, oh my gosh, I was in my 20s, probably 26 or 20 years ago. I mean, when this book first came out, I went there and that really started to change my perspective on how do I do this? And is Zach someone I can respect? That started to be my first question, right? Like, did I even choose a man I can respect? And I think for women, so often we choose partners, not because we need to show up and love them the way that they need to be loved, but for what they can do for us. So do they provide safety, whether that's emotional, financial, whatever that means? Do they provide us with some sort of safety, right? We're not thinking, is this someone I can respect? Is this someone I can admire? Very few women do that. Sorry, when they choose a partner. And so you set yourself up for, yes, he can provide financial, maybe safety and security or emotional safety and security, but you don't respect some of his decisions. You don't respect the unique things that he brings to the table. Respect the fact that he has a high desire for sex, which is a God-given gift. That's how, we recreate. That's how the world continues to grow. It's a God-given gift. And a lot of women just don't choose right from the beginning. So what was your question? I'm spiraling.
No,
I do that. I'm a girl. So you have to appreciate me. I'm noodle brain. You have a waffle brain. I have a noodle brain.
I have a brain that loses my cell phone and wallet. So that's my brain, but I don't remember the question. I'm kidding. No, you totally answered it because I asked you about what was the thought process around treating men in your life this way. And the answer was, I kind of really just didn't know any better. And I think there's something to be said for that. What was the aha moment for you though, to where you're like, wait a second, I don't know if this is the way a relationship should work?
So to be completely honest, I got together with Zach when I was 24 years old and I had 4 years then. And I definitely chose him for the wrong reasons. And I think as I started going to church, I prayed, God, allow my heart to change. Like, I want to be able to enjoy sex with him and respect him as the leader of our home and put him in a position to, feel valued and admired. And I started questioning, like, is this a man I can do that for? And our second son, actually our first son, he's my second child, went through 2 brain surgeries that lasted about a year. And that was really hard on our family. And then we unexpectedly got pregnant again. And through all of those things, I just felt like I admire him. We are great friends. Like, we get along really, really, really well. But I felt like I chose the wrong man, and I prayed about it. And, I was withholding sex. I would go to bed early. He's funny. He loves to tell the story, but, I'd wear husband repellent clothes, like big shirts and sweatpants to bed, and, put pillows all around me so he wouldn't touch me. And then he worked late at night, and I'd make sure to be in bed and asleep before he got home. And I'd say, let's schedule sex. And it wasn't like, let's schedule it so that we can like think about it and have fun, throughout the day while we're thinking about our sex date later. It was like, let's schedule it so, we don't have to think about it. Like, it's just on the schedule. And we fought a lot about that. And I was just super avoidant of everything. So I finally confessed that I didn't know that I truly loved him. I didn't think that I picked the right person. And, we got divorced. And I don't know if it was the right thing or the wrong thing, but I believe that God had a plan, because, I was on my knees praying every single day, and know that my story would be kind of a ministry changing, millions of people's lives and marriages.
So let's just talk about a day in the life, or a week in the life, or a season or months of a life of a woman who is not having sex with her husband. Is there a part of you, just from a human being standpoint? Human beings were, as you said, we're wired to reproduce. We're wired to have sex. We're wired to crave sex. I also know for a woman, and quite frankly, for a man too. Yeah. Is sex a physical act, and can men compartmentalize, the physical from the emotional? Yeah, sure. But so can women. But underneath all of that, from a human being standpoint, we really, really want to connect with the person that we're with. And we can do that through mental, through emotion, through spiritual, and through physical. Let's just talk about the physical aspect, like the actual physical desire for sex. If you're depriving your man, like, and I've had clients, I've had men in our mastermind community where they have gone weeks, months, season, even years without it. And
12 years.
Yeah. And here's where my mind really goes with. I had one client where it was 8 years, and I'll never forget that gentleman. And God willing, he was able to overcome that. And him and his wife are still together today, and now they have sex frequently. He did a lot of work, and so did she. But I will say this, from just a human being standpoint and the physical desire to have sex, when I hear people say that, I've known my wife for 25 years. We've been married for 19. We've always had a really good sex life. And the crazy thing is it never gets old. We still desire each other. And even from a physical standpoint, if it's been a week, like, we'll both be like, I don't know about you, but I need it. Like, and she'll say that to me, like, and I'll say that to her. But like, there's so much time passes, and like, physically you want to have sex. So from your standpoint though, and let's speak to the men who are in those seasons and months, and maybe give them the woman's perspective. Cause I think for us guys, we're like, how, like, why? But physically, how can you do that?
Hey, but back in my 20s, I felt like I won. I was like, he hasn't touched me for weeks. I'm winning. This is great. Because I didn't understand what he was going through, right? To me, sex was just intercourse. Like, we have intercourse. And unfortunately, a lot of women bring to the table sexual trauma, right? Like, whether men have slept with them and never talked to them again, and they got their heart broken, or there's like been rape, or, something going on before they come into a marriage. I didn't have that. I was super grateful. I had a bunch of little kids running around. My husband worked all the time. I was a stay-at-home housewife that did everything except, I say wipe his butt, but like, I ironed clothes. I did all the, dinner was always cooked. It was in the fridge every single night he got home. Like, I did everything. So I was a little bit resentful because my workload was stacking up. He was gone for hours. And so that starts to play into, well, like, want to know what I did today? How about what I did? So we would have those funny conversations about, his work day. And I'd be like, do you want to know what I did my work day? I got puked on, and then I had shit on the bedroom floor. And then, but the reality of it is, this is what I've come to realize, is that for men, you can have the act of sex, you can have physical intercourse, and that's sex and that's pleasing. But for a woman, sex is like feeling. It's a feeling sexy. And when you're a mom, you don't feel sexy.
I can understand.
Especially if you're a stay-at-home mom. Like I said, I got puked on today. There was shit on the bathroom floor and I stepped in it. And then the dog puked. And then you just feel yucky. You don't feel beautiful and sexy. And I view a man's sex drive as something a woman should view as a gift to keep her sexiness alive, right? It's a reminder, be sexy, feel confident. When you have high sexual energy, you radiate positivity, love, life. Sex is not necessarily always a physical act. And unfortunately, I think so many men in relationships, they don't intentionally do this. They don't know how to verbalize it to women, but most men could go without the actual penetration or intercourse. They want to feel close and connected to you as well. But the word sex makes you think intercourse. And then a woman just feels used because we're missing all the emotional part of it. So, coming into a relationship and being healthy and changing things up is not telling your wife, we need more sex. You never have sex. But hey, I really miss it when you used to wear that sexy dress. Or what happened to those red heels you once had? Or do you remember when we used to make out for hours in the car? Because now you're tapping into that sentimental, her brain, right? So starting to have conversations, not from a state of mind, we never and you always, and when are we going to have sex again? Or, passive aggressive comments about sex, but start to compliment her on things that make her feel beautiful and sexy, right? Hey, I know when you get a pedicure, it makes you feel really good about yourself. Why don't you go get a pedicure? Because that is sexy to a woman, and that starts to make her feel good about herself. And then she can bring that into the bedroom with you as well.
I'm really glad you brought up the connection piece, because as you said that's one of the conversations that Jessica and I have a lot, and even when she'll come up to me, she's like, it's I really want it tonight. I was like, yeah, me too. She's like, I really miss you. And I was like, I miss you too. And I'll even ask her, well, what do you miss most? And she's like, I just miss the connection. I really miss the connection. And when we're not having sex, I feel like our connection gets somewhat distant. And then when we do have sex, it reignites that connection all over again. So for us, I double down and I tell you, I agree with you that if you're having good sex, right, and you're having the right kind of sex, it goes well beyond the physical. It's more meaningful for your relationship, because that sex is really just a launching pad, no pun intended. It's really just a launching pad to connect all the other things, right? The mental, the emotional, the spiritual connection in your relationships. I'm really glad you brought that up.
And I don't make it orgasm focused, because that's so horrible for women. That's the last thing. If you say be good at oral and just make her have an orgasm, every woman is like, no, thank you. Because we want that, but that's the end result, right? We want everything before that. So, what I like to say is it's not a sex night, it's a sex life. So it's a sex life. If you're having good sex. So, but that comes from a good sex life. It's complimenting her. It's on what she does, the things that make her feel sexy as a woman, spending the time with her, the connection outside of the bedroom, complimenting her on I'm laughing because I have hot pink nails on. These make me feel sexy, right? When I don't have nails on, I don't feel sexy. But when I got my nails done, I did hot pink. Why? Because they're sexy. Who doesn't love hot? But when I look at my nails, I feel sexy. And then I would want to bring that into, the bedroom with me. But if I don't feel sexy, it's not going there. So make sure that you don't think about sex night. It's sex life. It's text. It's taking her out dancing. It's, taking her for a walk, if that's what your wife loves to do, doing things that she loves to do. And also, what I like to tell women is that what you have to understand is when your husband says he needs sex, don't take it as he needs actual intercourse, but that's a reminder that you're not showing up in the relationship as the sexy woman that you used to be, and start doing things for yourself to make you feel sexy again.
Yeah.
That don't take it as a negative. Be like, oh yeah, right. We haven't. That means I'm not feeling like the sexy woman I used to feel when we were dating. So how do I get back there?
So I love not the sex night, but the sex life. That's fantastic. 'Cause you're absolutely right. And sometimes, my wife and I are big on date nights, and I swear that's another launching pad for a great sex life is that, we have to not be mom and dad, and we have to be a couple, and we have to be able to connect in a romantic environment. And that catapults our sex life. One of the other things, and sometimes you don't necessarily need a date night, right? My wife and I, we just started incorporating, we used to work out together all the time. And since kids, we haven't done that. And I now work out with my two older boys, my 14 and 16-year-old, and my wife works out on her own or with the girls or whatever. And we recently just started reintroducing us working out together again. And so we take one of the older boys will watch our little boys in the morning on Saturday mornings. And my wife and I we'll go to work out, and then we'll go to breakfast. We'll have coffee and just even like, her throwing her hair back in a ponytail and yoga pants and working out and sweating and kicking each other's ass and then going out and grabbing breakfast afterwards, having coffee and conversation. And like, even that has been like, it aligns us. It gets us in that. It sounds crazy, but probably not to you because you understand this stuff. And so do I. But I get really in the mood, and so does she. Like, even when we do stuff like that, that's just like the endorphins are up, the connections there, the conversations there, all these things that and it has everything to do with the sex life. One other thing that you said too, that I want to make sure our men and women listeners, because we actually have, shockingly, I get emails from women. We actually have a lot of female listeners that listen, is that men are not, and I'm speaking for all men, when it comes to sex, men are not all about the physical release. In fact, I would argue to say, no, we're not. I would argue to say that the physical release and an orgasm for a man is a bonus of all the other things that come along with it from an emotional connected standpoint with the woman that he loves. So when a guy is saying, and you already know this, and so do I, when a guy is saying, I really want you, and I miss you, or I want to have sex tonight, what he's really saying is, I want to be connected to you. I miss my wife, and I want to share love with you. It's not that I want to get off. It's that I really want to share love with you and celebrate our physical relationship with you. Like that. I honestly think that's where it comes from.
Yeah. But unfortunately, women don't interpret it that way. There's a big miscommunication is that before, and I even told my daughter this when she was in high school, but because I didn't know this when she was younger and I was younger, but before a committed relationship, a man has sex and it's just sex. It's just the act of sex. It's like, that's why you can turn him and burn him. I used to say that term, right? Like, if you want a man, don't sleep with him because you'll lose him. So they love to hunt, right? So, but if you sleep with him, he'll never call you again, right? Because he doesn't have that oxytocin that gets released during sex. So he's not connecting to you because he doesn't feel love to you. When a woman has a baby, oxytocin is released so she connects to that baby, because otherwise she would kill it because it just caused her so much pain. So she's now naturally connected. For a man, when he has sex with a woman he loves, that's when his oxytocin gets released and he connects to her like a mom connects to a baby. So with that being said, a lot of men don't know this and a lot of women don't know this. Outside of a relationship, you're right. Sex is sex. That's why a man can go cheat and feel sorry and have no emotional connection to that woman and wish that it was his, like he can confess because he wants his wife. He truly connects with her. He feels bad that he betrayed her. But I'm not making an excuse for that. But what women need to realize is that in a marriage, inside of a committed relationship, a marriage, sex is not just sex to a man. It is that deep connection, which is exactly what you just said. It's how he connects to you. He wants the emotional side. And most men will say, I don't even need to have sex. Really, I just want to be wanted and know that I'm desired. No. So ladies, send him a text and let him know that you desire him. And actually, he'll probably stop pushing to have sex with you, because what he's really saying is, he's not saying he wants to have sex with you. He's saying, I don't feel wanted and desired in this relationship. Right?
So glad you said that. Because you're absolutely right. A lot of times, and I don't know, maybe it's our primal being as men, but if we want to feel love and we want to show love, guys are more physical with it. Like it's just the way that we, I think, enjoy expressing ourselves, or maybe it's part of like our basic hardwired DNA of just, this is how I know to love. This feels the most basic way and the most powerful, one of the most powerful ways for me to connect with the woman that I love. I've got two more questions for you. One of them is, so the last question, it was the one that I shelved earlier, but the first question is this. Let's speak to the men out there right now who are listening to this particular podcast, who are maybe feeling either all of what your dad felt growing up or some of what your dad felt growing up, but they're in this marriage right now where they're just like, oh my gosh, this is totally speaking my language, and I still don't know exactly what I should do. So if guys are in that relationship and they're maybe being emasculated, they're in a sexless marriage, and they're just like, I've tried everything. What are some simple things that man can do to start to either rebuild the relationship or even just rebuild himself?
It's crazy you asked that, because I just came to this huge aha moment with my brand and with my life. And the secret is be vulnerable.
Like how?
So I just polled my audience. I have millions of people that follow me. It's insane the types of answers I get. I have literally data, research, proof. I have studied this, asked the questions. I have hundreds and hundreds of answers to back this up and prove it. But here's where I've discovered there's a massive disconnect in relationships and communication, and it's through vulnerability. It's through vulnerability that a woman connects with a man, but vulnerability to a man is
weak.
So how does a woman emotionally connect to her man if he can never be vulnerable, right? And a man, and I'm not saying this, guys, because I am making this up. This is proven research. I have actually asked and polled thousands of men, and they all say the same thing. And then I go the opposite way and I ask the ladies, right? So here's what I found. A man will not be vulnerable because he doesn't feel like he's stepping up and being strong. And if he's vulnerable, he thinks he will be viewed as weak. But it's completely opposite for a woman, right? A woman wants you to be vulnerable. We want to support you through. We want to be able to love you in the way that you need to be loved. But if you can't verbalize the way you need to be loved because you love your wife so much, you're afraid to hurt her feelings with your honesty to get what you need out of the relationship, she'll start to distance from you because she knows there's a disconnect. And as that disconnect starts to happen, you're feeling that she doesn't love you the way you need to be loved, or you're not able to verbalize vulnerability to her and giving her the opportunity to step up and love you the way you need to be loved, right? Because silence is strength, but it's truly not. You're causing a disconnect in your relationship. You're starting to divide the bed you sleep in. And then if a woman can't connect to you, through vulnerability and emotionally, she starts sleeping on the other side of the bed, and you start feeling unwanted and rejected, which is the number one thing men hate: rejection.
Mm-hmm. So are you doing good on time?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Because I want to challenge this a little bit.
Okay.
And I'm not challenging you. I know exactly what it is you're talking about, but I want to give men a little bit of deeper clarity here, because I think what we could do here is if we tell a man to go be vulnerable, he's sitting there thinking like, well, crap, if I'm really vulnerable and I tell her exactly what's on my mind, that could completely and totally implode on me. So, and so the reason I want to challenge you on this is because I know now that I've known this for a while, but one of the worst things you can do to a woman is be freaking needy and desperate, right? Neediness is not attractive. And I think a lot of guys will confuse if I'm vulnerable and I'm honest and I'm upfront, I might confuse that with the way that I present this and approach this. I'll do it in a needy way, which will actually push her even further more in the direction where I don't want her to go. So when we say vulnerability, when we say authenticity, what I always coach men to do is remain within your masculine power, not overpowering, but be confident,
Right.
be bold,
Confident. Thank
confident.
you.
Yeah. Confident, bold,
Mm-hmm.
and don't be desperate. Say, hey, this is where I'm at. And these are my boundaries. And these are the things that I stand for. And this is what I truly, truly want. And being able to be very confident in being that vulnerable and authentic person. So I want to hear a woman's perspective on bold, confident, sexy, attractive vulnerability. What does that look like?
Oh, I love it. Actually, that's amazing. So, okay. So often a woman, see, I know this information. So I'll ask a man, like I love to ask, hey, how can I love you better? Most men cannot answer that with a direct action item. They're like, well, you do a good job already. You make me feel loved. Okay. So I just go about doing the relationship without knowing what his boundaries are or what his expectations are. I mean, how many men have you coached that have said, I want sex 3 times a week? It's important to me. Well, I'm going to tell you what, a woman does not sign up for a relationship to disappoint or let you down or make you not feel loved, but she doesn't know how to make you feel more loved or meet your expectations or live within your expected boundaries if you don't verbalize them with her. Right?
That makes total sense. So do you think it's
go ahead.
I was going to say, do you think it's most important for men to do some discerning and some reflection on saying, like, if I were to feel most loved, and if I could even wave a magic wand and ask for what I want and be totally honest with myself on what those things are, I need to probably get very clear with that first and then share that with her.
Absolutely. But it needs to be shared in the beginning of a relationship. But if it's not, still shared in, where you're at now, even if you've been in the relationship for 20 years, and say, this is important to me. How can we get there? How can we get back to where we used to be? Or, those types of things. But I think for so many men, they don't even want to, because they love their wives so much, they don't want to make their wives do anything else besides all of the work that their wives say they have to do all the time anyways. So they're like, well, I'll just, stuff my needs so she doesn't have another thing to do. But in reality, if you could actually say, hey, I really appreciate it when you do this, or I feel more loved. I felt really loved when you did that the other day for me. She's like, wow, I have a chance to serve you and make you feel loved. It kind of softens the heart of a woman. I'm going to use an example. So I'm in a relationship and I'll have to tell my guy that I, broke this out, but I think it's really important. And I know he'll be okay with it. So I've been asking him recently, how can I love you better? Right. I just feel like there's a little disconnect in our relationship going on. And maybe he doesn't quite feel loved by me. And he's like, oh no, you do a good job, this and that. So like everybody else, we've been going to counseling and talking to a counselor a little bit about it. And so I said, here's the disconnect. Like he says, what all men say, all she does is point out everything I do wrong. My perspective is no, I'm just saying I need those things in order to feel loved. I'm not saying you're doing them wrong. I'm just saying like, maybe we could twist the words around, or maybe if you did it on a different day. I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong. I'm just being vulnerable and honest and saying, I need those things changed in the relationship so I feel more loved. Right? So how can I make you feel more loved? What do you need out of the relationship? He can't verbalize it. There's no action item. There's no, well, if you parked your car in a different spot, or if you, slept in lingerie every night, I would be more attracted to you. Or if you stopped cussing, whatever, there's no action item. So I brought this up in counseling, and the counselor looked at him and said, what does Teresa do that makes you feel loved? And he goes, well, the other day, I was having a really stressful day, and she just said, can I pray for you? And so she prayed for me, and it brought me to tears, and I felt really empowered and really loved. And he goes, yeah, so I guess like we could just pray together more often. And the counselor said, okay, that's good. And I said, no, stop. Do you see what he did again? He's not being vulnerable and honest and telling me what he needs from me. He said, it felt really good when she prayed for me. So I think we should pray more often. Well, why? In my brain, I'm like, why? We pray every night together, every single night. He prays. We pray. And I said, I said, will you say it in a way that you're specifically telling me what you need from me? So he reworded it and said, and if you're a woman listening to this podcast, I can promise you that your heart will melt right now. And if you're a man listening to this podcast, take notes. He said, it made me feel really good the other day when you prayed for me. I miss it that you don't pray for me very often, and I would love you to start praying for me more. And I was like, "Aw." Like, and I thought, oh, me praying for him is so powerful, and he feels so loved, and that's what I want him to feel. So I'm going to pray for him. But do you see the vulnerability in that versus him deflecting it onto like, God, I can't ask her to pray, and I liked it, but we just need to pray more. Like it was so hard for him because I am a woman, I am super, and I know he doesn't want to put another thing on my plate, but he's my priority. So I want him to put things on my plate so that we can stay connected in those ways.
Something very.
And then I wanted to have sex with him.
Yeah, you did.
I was like, let's have sex. I feel like this would be great.
Yeah. So I love, even your voice tone changed when you were impersonating, like not but giving your impression of what you saw and heard, right? It came across so much more confident. It came across so much more like standing in his power, but yet very vulnerable at the same time. And yes, guys, that's exactly what it looks like. I have one more question for you. And I say this with nothing but appreciation, or ask this question with nothing but appreciation, honor, and respect for you. If you don't want to answer it, you don't have to. Okay. I like to sometimes put people in positions where maybe they haven't been, or ask them a question that they haven't thought about. With your permission, and again, if this is too much for you, I get it. However, I think it would be something that would be so beneficial for the audience and just for the show in general, and maybe even for you. I don't know. But here's the question. Here you are, Teresa, as an adult, right? And you've gone on this journey. You've taken on this ministry. You're teaching men and women how to operate effectively with respect, with alignment, with communication, with asking for what you need, want, desire, on this foundation of beautiful respect. Just for a moment, the person, the woman that you are right now, if you had an opportunity to jump into a time machine and see that situation unfold where you're on your dad's lap and he's crying, and you're seeing that as a child, but you have an opportunity to go to your dad right now as the person that you are and share something with him, what would you tell him?
Do you have to do that? I'm a girl, I get emotional. I have those conversations with him all the time.
Really?
Yeah, because I feel like I continue his legacy. I feel like I get to, crack open the hearts of millions of men and in honor of him, the things that he couldn't be. And, I'm just grateful. I'm so grateful for the way I was raised. I'm just so grateful for, getting to see the heartache that he went through and enduring it. And as a matter of fact, my goal is to speak on stage someday. I've done it in the past, but for the respected man. And you can mark my word, my opening intro will be my dad saying, "Baby girl, when I die, don't cry, just throw a rose in my grave and walk away." Because so many men, I think today, feel like that. Yep. And they don't realize that there's help. And as women, we don't understand that we have the power to really be able to see that little boy inside every man that's just dying to be heard, dying to be understood, dying to be seen. I always say, like, Dad, see you.
I think that's an incredible answer. Very heartfelt. And to be honest, I hope I'm not overstepping my bounds here, but your dad is looking down on you just with so much joy and pride for you. And, you know, you might have not have saw him smile much when you were younger, but man, is he smiling now. You're doing good work.
One more thing, when he passed away, it was funny. My dad had a lot of tattoos, and, you know, I don't remember all of them when I was little, but I was looking at his arms, and he had a tattoo that said, La Vida Loca, which means the crazy life. And there was a time before he passed away where I didn't really want to be around him, and I had gotten a tattoo, and the tattoo on my hip says the beautiful life. It says La Bella Vida. I was like, got you.
That's awesome. You know, what's so cool about you, Teresa, is that you're being the change that you wanted to see in the world. You're being the change that you maybe even wish you could have saw when you were a little girl. And that's exactly why I do Dad Edge, because of how I grew up, you know. So no man goes to his grave with regret for how he operated in his marriage with his kids and all that. So you're, again, seeing your heart here in this last few minutes and why you do this, it's so powerful and it's so genuine. So thank you for the work that you're doing, because so many, not just men and not just wives, but families need this type of work.
Well, thanks for having me as a guest on your podcast.
Oh, you bet. This was so much fun. I want to make sure that we give you just a couple minutes here, just so if men want to connect with you, or at least follow you on social media in some way, shape, or form. I know you gave your platform out, but I want to give you another opportunity so we can put it in the show notes and guys can hear from you.
Absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram at the.respected.man. And then I do have a membership community where I do offer support and coaching. I host, live interviews with guests and therapists over there, which have been really amazing. I have a lot of pastors I've interviewed. You can also find me at therespectedmanpodcast.com, which is my website. And you can find me on TikTok. I can never change my TikTok name because I have millions of followers. I have more views than most celebrities. So if I were to get consistent branding and change it, it would kind of mess things up. But I am Teresa Young on TikTok, and that's kind of where it all started about a year ago.
Well, guys, not to worry. We're going to have all the links in the show notes for Teresa, whether you want to follow her on TikTok, Instagram. I follow her on Instagram myself, as well as if you want to subscribe to her podcast and hear some of her amazing interviews. We'll have all that in the show notes. All you have to do is go to thedadedge.com/Friday58 for this show. Again, thedadedge.com/Friday58. Teresa, this was awesome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me as a guest.
You bet. Gentlemen, go out, live legendary. Take care.